Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, here once again with another amazing history video. Battle of Civitate, 1053, Norman Conquest of Italy. Yes, this is at the same time period as like the Viking Age, but obviously we're not up in Britain this time. Another reason I wanted to continue this time period is Norman Conquest. Yeah, okay. Is because I looked at, it's a little playlist, but it covers Italy. Then there's like a Muslim war, and there's Rome is included in this. It goes to the Greeks and stuff like that. So I just thought, damn, it has a lot of like, oops, I hit my screen wrong. It has a lot of interesting, I guess battles and war and stuff like that. So I thought it was kind of really cool. So I guess it kind of jumps around everywhere, but I don't know. I have a feeling it's going to cover like a bunch of issues and stuff like that. So I thought that'd be kind of pretty neat to kind of cover and learn about. So that's why I did it. Uh, Norman Conquest of Italy. I had a couple of comments saying, sorry, my screen is bouncing up and down, so I'm trying to like, there you go. Couple of comments saying, that Normandy is part of France. It's not its own country. The only reason I kind of consider like Normandy, I was thinking that maybe Normandy was its own country is because on the map, it's a different color than the rest of France. I figured, why wouldn't they just have the whole country, the same color and just put like, the name of Normandy up in the corner, I figured that would kind of help it a lot, or just having an outline, even though having the same color as France, just have, a little outline there. So I figured, it wasn't part of France yet, or maybe, it's kind of like Britain, but like kind of like the Scotland of Britain, like they're kind of connected, but not maybe. I don't know. So that's what my thinking is too, because like, why is it the Norman? If Normandy is not is just part of France, why is it the Norman conquest of Italy? Why instead of like France's conquest of Italy? I don't know. Maybe they'll explain it right here in the beginning, but I guess I'm sorry, it's a little confusing for me. I didn't grow up, learning all this stuff and anything, so I'm sure for most of you it's pretty common sense, but a little confusing to me, So I apologize, if it's basically France, and I'm saying it's its own country. So, anyways, yeah. But I think this series is gonna be pretty interesting. I also wanted to continue doing this since it's around the same time period. While that Viking series kind of still a little fresh, and might be using some of the same characters. I don't know. I know. I've already forgot. Like, who's the one who took over Britain? Was that William? No, it wasn't William. It was. I already forget. I'm sure it's gonna let me know here. So I'm sorry, guys. Horrible with names. But anyways, we're gonna jump right into it. Please hit that like and subscribe below. And yeah, I also want to say I really appreciate the support. You guys like say a million like suggestions. Like it's definitely overwhelming and very awesome. So there's definitely no shortage of suggestions because you get like a dozen a day. But anyways, yeah, let's get on with it. All right, here we go, guys. 3, 2, 1, bam. Like always, Kings and Generals. It's an awesome channel, guys. What can I say, man? And you guys know me. If I like a channel, I stick with it, And another reason that is because I a few times I've tried different channels, and then you get there's like some channels aren't as nice, you know, and you get copyrighted and stuff like that. So that's obviously another reason why you kind of stick to similar channels, not only because they're very good, but because you have kind of less issues, with me being able to post a video. Like I've done one or two in the past where it wouldn't even let me post a video. So you know there's that. But anyways, what am I doing? Oh, what am I doing? Okay. All right, 3, 2, 1.
When someone mentions the Normans, the general public tends to conjure up images of William the Conqueror and the Battle of Hastings.
Yeah. Okay.
Iconic as that war was, England was not the only place they left their mark. At the turn of the first millennium, in the heart of the Mediterranean, Norman warriors would...
So why isn't... I'm sorry, you guys are probably mad at me already for this, but... So why isn't, like, you know, why are they saying Normans? Why don't they just say French if, you know, if Normandy's part of France? Then, you know. So it just made them saying it just makes me think that Normandy is its own identity, you know, it's its own country kind of thing. So I don't know.
Would create one of the most prosperous and culturally diverse realms in medieval European history. Welcome to our series on the Norman conquest of southern Italy and the creation of the Kingdom of Sicily.
Alright.
The year was 911, and the Vikings were at the height of their power. The pagan warriors asserted their influence from the Anglo-Saxon heartland to the rivers of Russia. One such Viking was Rollo, a Norse war chief whose relentless raids in the lower Seine Valley had made him the bane of the Kingdom of West Francia. To stop this destruction in his realm, Frankish King Charles the Simple offered Rollo land in return for protection against other raiders. The warlord accepted, and his followers were consolidated into the Duchy of Normandy. In time, they would become some of the most influential warriors in the history of medieval Europe. The Normans quickly assimilated, absorbing the French language and Latin Christianity. Among the other things they adapted from the Franks was a feudal system of governance, albeit with a hardy Norman flair. Fiefs in Normandy were owned primarily by armed knights and maintained through the sword. In a small duchy with a growing population, conflicts between minor lords seeking to increase their landholdings were the norm. This constant fighting maintained the intensely martial culture of the Normans' ancestors, and this created a problem. Before long, there were more knightly warlords in Normandy fighting over land than there was land to go around. As a result, a gradual exodus took form. Much like their seafaring pagan predecessors, many young Norman knights began migrating abroad, seeking land, riches, and the glory of battle in warmer, more fertile countries. Their travels would take many itinerant warriors southwards into the heart of the Latin world. In the early 11th century, the Italian peninsula was a thoroughly divided land. By the year 1000 AD, northern Italy was controlled by the Holy Roman Emperors of Germany. Southern Italy, however, was a patchwork of petty states. Benevento, Salerno and Capua were ruled by princes of the Lombards, a Germanic people who had swept into Italy in the decades after the Gothic Wars of 554 AD. Much like the Normans, these hardy northern warriors had assimilated into the culture of their adopted homeland and had quickly become Latin-speaking Christians. Meanwhile, the Eastern Roman Empire clung on to the last of their Italian holdings in the southernmost peninsulas of Apulia and Calabria. 500 years prior, Emperor Justinian had managed to return most of Italy to the empire, but Lombard invasions in the following decades saw most of the country slip from their fingers. Further south still, the island of Sicily remained fertile and prosperous. Once having belonged to Eastern Rome, it had been conquered by the Arab Aghlabid dynasty between 831 and 965. By the 11th century, another Arab dynasty, the Kalbids, ruled it. The Normans looked upon the decentralized yet wealthy lands between Syracuse and Capua and saw boundless opportunity. In 1017, a group of Norman pilgrims was travelling through Gargano en route to the shrine of St. Michael, their warlike holy patron. There they were approached by Malus of Bari, a Lombard nobleman from Byzantine Apulia. Though ruled by the Byzantines, Apulia's populace was comprised mostly of Lombards. Melis's aim was to overthrow his Greek overlords and establish an independent domain. He entreated the Normans to join his cause, who, motivated by a thirst for battle and plunder, agreed. Melis met the Byzantines on the field of Cannae, the historic site of Hannibal Barca's legendary victory 1200 years earlier. Here, the Romans annihilated the Lombard rebels and Norman sellswords, scoring a decisive victory and ending the rebellion. This initial defeat was only a minor setback for the Normans. The Byzantine commander, Basil Boioannis, saw the Franco-Norsemen for what they were, mercenaries. Impressed by their martial prowess, he was quick to overlook their former allegiance and bribed a contingent of knights to his side, offering them command over the newly built fortress town of Troia. This was a clever gamble, for in 1022, an army led by the Holy Roman Emperor Henry II marched south to assert control over the region, only to be repulsed at Troia by Boioannis' Norman hires. The following years saw the Normans increase their prestige as the premier mercenaries of southern Italy. They were never short of employment opportunities, as the Byzantines, the Pope, the Lombard princes, and the Holy Roman Emperor constantly sought to undermine each other's influence.
Yeah, it just seems like they're kind of like the Vikings of the South kind of thing, but that turned into mercenaries. Yeah, definitely. I guess they're definitely getting their a foothold down here and making themselves known. And I guess it's right now it just seems like they're working for like the locals around here and getting paid for it. But I'm guessing that the Normans are going to want to take control, and be in business for themselves and not be working for somebody.
In the region, Emperor constantly sought to undermine each other's influence in the region. Consequently, the Franco-Norse knights often found themselves fighting on both sides of any given conflict. This worked out well, as Normans on the winning side of a battle used their leverage as irreplaceable allies to secure the safe release of their brethren on the losing side. Of all the roaming Norman bands in Italy, the largest was commanded by the enterprising warrior Rainulf Drengo. He had fought at Cannae in 1018 before coming into the service of the Prince of Capua, Pandulf IV. Pandulf was a Byzantine sympathizer, so in 1026 the Lombard was deposed through a plot devised by the Holy Roman Emperor, who installed a friendly puppet, the Duke of Teano, in his stead. Luckily for Pandulf, the Norman mercenaries he had hired turned out to be a wise investment, for they quickly intervened, and with Byzantine aid, spearheaded a reconquest of Capua to help their Lombard benefactor regain his throne. Emboldened by his victory, the newly reinstated Prince of Capua marched his armies to neighbouring Naples, where the pretender of Teano had taken refuge. The Neapolitan Duke, Sergius IV, was ill-prepared for battle, but luck was on his side. Rainulf, the commander of Pandulf's Normans, and ever the shrewd mercenary, realized that Norman dominance in Italy depended on no one ruler becoming too powerful and subjugating the others, for only through constant warfare could they stay employed. In 1029, the Normans promptly switched sides and joined Sergius, driving Pandulf back to Capua. Grateful for his salvation, Sergius granted the Normans a county, comprised of the town of Aversa and its surrounding lands. This was a thrilling development to the Northmen, who for the first time in their 15-year presence in Italy finally had a land of their own.
Here we go.
Though nominally vassals of the Duke of Naples, the Normans of Aversa soon proved they served no one but themselves, taking advantage of the endemic rivalries in the region to change allegiances whenever it profited them. Meanwhile, a new family had entered into the peninsula. They were the Orteviles, comprised of the patriarch Tancred and 8 of his sons. These fighters would soon be regarded among the most influential Normans in Italy. In 1038, the Byzantines launched a military expedition into Muslim Sicily. This ended in disaster, and by 1041, their Lombard subjects had once again taken the opportunity to erupt into rebellion. Naturally, the perennial sellswords rode into Apulia, lances in hand, to fight with their Latin cousins. Led by William Ironarm of the Hortavilles, the Normans defeated 2 Byzantine armies at the battles of Olivento and Montemaggiore. The elite Varangian Guard fought in service of the Byzantines, led by the legendary Norwegian prince in exile Harald Hardrada, but even they could do little against the heavy cavalry of the Norman knights.
Wow.
Through typical avariciousness, the Normans soon decided that they would much rather simply seize the land. By 1047, they had conquered a sizable chunk of Byzantine Apulia and Calabria and organized.
You know, I was thinking that like where are these like these locals here but these leaders here that keep hiring them, you know, don't they notice that they just keep switching sides and, you know, collecting the money to keep the conflict going? Does that not worry them that they're gonna hire them and like before victory is obtained, they're just gonna see you later. We're gonna go slaughter your guys now because you know you want to keep this going here. And the fact that they're so strong and not worried about either side, you think that maybe that would raise red flags, you know, about giving them their own land, because once they kind of get a foothold, they're going to want to branch out. So then it doesn't look so good for those leaders that hired them, because you know the Normans obviously are pretty awesome fighters, and if they get enough men going, you know, enough support or whatnot, if they get the numbers, it's going to be hard to stop them, especially when you have all these bickering leaders around who probably don't get along with each other and, you know, don't want to, you know, don't want to get together for an alliance. So this will be interesting, as obviously Normans will definitely, you know, try to gain more land. So cool stuff. I'm sorry, like it seems like at the beginning of the series, it's always it's usually a lot of dialogue, just trying to get you prepared for like the rest of the episodes. They're kind of, you know, just introducing to you like how things start to take place, which is really cool. So you kind of really have to pay attention, you know. There's really not much to say about that except for just really paying attention. Anyways, back to the series.
They had conquered a sizable chunk of Byzantine Apulia and Calabria and organized it into the Norman county of Melfi. Their land gains became legitimized through the recognition of their ally, Prince Guaimar of Salerno, and the Holy Roman Emperor Henry III.
Oh wow.
2 parties who were surely happy to see the ever-hated Byzantines humbled. Norman rule in their Italian territories was anything but harmonious. The Franco-Norse elite employed a harsh hand on their mostly Lombard subjects, provoking rebellions in both Melfi and Cosenza. Indeed, for all the mercenary work the Normans had done in the last few decades, the primary victim had always been the common people, who had taken the brunt of their habitual pillaging.
Yeah.
Resentment against the Norman presence in Italy was coming to a boil. Among those watching the Normans' behaviour in the south was Pope Leo IX. In 1051, he had acquired temporal control of the Duchy of Benevento, whose duke had willingly offered himself to papal rule for protection against the Normans. However, no sooner had the papacy gained this territory than it was promptly captured, naturally, by the Normans.
Wow.
This did not endear them to the Pope, who in 1053 personally travelled south from Rome with 700 German Swabian soldiers. From there, thousands flocked to his cause, including the Duke of Gaeta, the Prince.
I forget, like the Pope has an army, because like, right, the Pope is not like he's a king or anything, right? He's just like the leader of, you know, the religion, the Christian religion, and so he has a lot of, I guess he just has a big influence on people. So you know, if the Pope, you know, the leader of your religion says, hey, we need to fight these guys, for the sake of, Christianity, I mean, people are going to flock to the cause, right? So, and like the Pope has power, but has a lot of power, but technically doesn't. I always found it interesting when it came to like movies and stuff. I mean, like the Pope, man, he's got power, but you know, a lot of his power kind of relies on, you know, other people. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Maybe you guys know.
From there, thousands flocked to his cause, including the Duke of Gaeta, the Prince of Benevento, and common folk from almost every Lombard principality. Piling upon this momentum were the Byzantines. Led by their Catapan Argarus, they assembled an army in the remaining Apulian territory and marched for Melfi, aiming to strike from the south while the papal forces assaulted the Norman holdings from the north. The Pope had a 6,000-strong army under his command, which was a massive number for the period, and it consisted of nearly everyone the Normans inflicted injuries upon in the last.
I'm just curious. The Pope is the leader of this army, right? Does the Pope have any experience when it comes to like battle or leading an army? Because just I always think, okay, Pope, not the kind of person you would think that would just go into battle. It does not seem like a warrior. So kind of curious. Maybe he has a lot of people in his ears, giving him advice and stuff, but it just seems odd that the Pope is leading an army.
And it consisted of nearly everyone the Normans inflicted injuries upon in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
The Normans were aware that everything they had gained in Italy was now under existential threat.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can't just go into it, you're given land, you can't just take it over and then treat the people like crap and expect everything to be fine and dandy. I mean, the smart thing, obviously, to do is basically not suck up to the people, but, treat everyone well so stuff like this doesn't happen. And yeah, and if you do need help, at least the people should have your back. But apparently they've been treating people like garbage, and everyone's they've had enough, and the outsiders find out, and it's not looking good for you. And now we're going to see if the Normans can kind of hold on to their land and maybe get some victories. We'll see.
Aware that everything they had gained in Italy was now under existential threat. Count Umfred de Hauteville mustered up all loyal levies in his Apulian realm. Robert Guiscard arrived with a contingent from Calabria, while Richard Drengot, nephew of Rainulf, arrived with soldiers from Aversa. Together, they amounted to 3,000 cavalry and 500 infantry. The Normans knew that their only hope of victory was to prevent Pope Leo from linking up with the Byzantine army, so they took the initiative and rode north to intercept the papal force. On the 17th of June 1053, the Norman host encountered their foe, camped outside the town of Civitate. The Franco-Norsemen arranged their army in 3 contingents. The heavy cavalry, led by Richard Drengot, were stationed on the right, while Robert Guiscard commanded a mix of horsemen and infantry on the left. Meanwhile, Umfred de Hauteville oversaw archers and dismounted knights in the centre. On the opposing side of the field stood over 6,000 men. A line of heavy Swabian infantry extended from the centre to the right wing of the papal army, while the left was comprised of a disorganized mob of Italian and Lombardic levies. The battle did not break out immediately. Despite outnumbering the Normans 2-1, the Pope still wished to wait for the arrival of his Eastern Roman allies. Meanwhile, there was unease within the Norman ranks, for the devoutly Catholic knights had serious misgivings about taking up arms against the supreme pontiff of the Church. To that end, they sent a delegation to the Pope, offering him their homage and making overtures for peace.
Oh, really?
This was a futile endeavour, as the Normans were only met by jeers from Leo's German soldiers, who boldly demanded that they return to the land from whence they came. Diplomacy continued through the night, but the Normans could wait no longer. With each passing moment, the Byzantine reinforcements grew closer, and lacking in provisions, they were at threat of starvation. Thus, while Leo continued to stall for a time through fruitless negotiations, the Normans launched their attack. Richard Drengot was the first to strike.
So it's one of those things, though. I mean, Pope's side has the numbers, but it kind of like reminds. We just did a Caesar episode for those who were new to the channel, and it's one of those things where the Normans are the better warriors, right? So you can be outnumbered, but as long as you're the better warriors, man, you can do some pretty heavy damage on your opponent. And I'm guessing that could easily be the case here because Normans seems like they've been fighting their whole lives. That's what they do. That's what they're good at, and all these levies probably they're probably not that made of the same cloth. They're not warriors. They're just kind of fighting for their fighting for their religion kind of thing, and they're just there to support it kind of thing. So they're not that experienced. But anyways, let's get to the battle.
His heavy cavalry barreled down upon the papal left to thundering effect. The disorganized hoi polloi of militias and rebels were simply no match against the impact of a highly trained, fully disciplined Norman cavalry charge. They broke without a fight, and Richard's knights began cutting down their enemies with ease.
Nice.
Meanwhile, the Swabians had begun trading volleys of arrow fire with the Company of Umfrey. Soon, the German infantry marched up the hill in the centre of the battlefield, where they engaged the Norman knights in a fierce melee. Unlike their Italian counterparts, the Swabians were able warriors, wielding their two-handed swords with ferocity. For a time, they were able to hold off the Normans. Up until now, Robert Guiscard had kept his men in reserve, but seeing his brother in peril, he promptly rallied his command and charged into battle, engaging the Swabian right.
There you go.
Still, the Germans held their own, and it seemed like the Normans had finally met a foe able to match them in martial prowess.
Oh, really?
This stalemate was broken when Richard's right flank finally managed to detangle themselves from the disarrayed mass of Italians they'd been slaughtering and joined the fight at the centre. Overwhelmed, the Swabians knew the battle was lost. Rather than surrender, they chose to die fighting to the last man. Following their victory, the Norman host rode up to the walls of Civitate, where the Pope had taken refuge. Some sources claim that Leo surrendered himself to the Normans to prevent further bloodshed, while others assert that the townsfolk of Civitate threw him out on his rear.
What?
Either way, the Normans took him hostage and held him captive at Benevento for 9 months. When the Byzantine army heard of the papal defeat, they became thoroughly demoralized and retreated back home. Being good Catholics, the Normans treated the Pope less like a prisoner and more like an honored guest, but this hospitality came at a price. Leo IX was forced to officially recognize the Norman territory in Italy, and promised to never again take up arms against them. The Treaty of Melfi in 1059 ratified the Duchy of Apulia and Calabria as a legal polity, with Robert Guiscard de Hauteville as its duke.
Wow.
In less
That's smart. Hold on, this video is almost over. I guess let me finish this off real quick.
In less than 40 short years, the Normans had entered the sun-kissed lands of southern Italy, first as pilgrims, then as mercenaries, and finally as conquerors. Their foothold in this land was secured, and they were here to stay. The next episode will see the ever-ambitious Robert of the House Hauteville turn his attention south.
That's next episode, but wow, so that is smart, because I was thinking, please don't. When they said the Pope was the last one, I was like, please do not kill the Pope. I mean, it's like use him as leverage. I mean, because you kill him, then there's probably going to be this giant uprising, of oh my god, of other countries saying they just killed our Pope, and then they'd have a giant war on their hands, I think, But the fact that they took him in as hostage, but treated him great, and it was probably, the Pope's hand was kind of forced. I mean, yeah, he couldn't just deny them because then he might have easily gotten killed. But the the Pope could have been obviously been scared, for his life, and so he was going to give the Normans what they wanted, and the Normans were probably not going to ask for too much because then it probably would not have been sustainable. But definitely a smart move. And now they got the paperwork. Hey, this is our lands. We got paperwork to prove it. You guys can't turn us now. That's part of the agreement. And wow. So that's how they get into Italy. And I guess, do they expand? I mean, I don't think I don't think we are. I don't think we're not staying in Italy. I mean, this is the conquest. So this is how they conquested Italy, and now we're going to go to another conquest. Obviously, it's the Normans' conquest of Italy, but it's just a hold on. We'll figure out for the next one. Da-da-da. So then we're on to the Muslim War, which I don't know where that is. Say I don't wherever. That's what's next. But anyways, that was really cool, and I guess I'll go back to this again. It is part of France. It's just basically its own like province of France, and kind of how it does kind of its own thing, but it's part of France, right? Right, kind of thing, really. I'm sure you guys will let me know. But yeah, and that was just kind of cool how they kind of showed how they arrive in Italy basically for work, and basically just earned their way up. They made a reputation of themselves, made it to mercenaries, are really good fighters. You continued to gain, that momentum and regain their numbers till eventually, they had the numbers and they kind of knew the layout of the land and how politics worked in that area. And they made a deal, got their own land and expanded it basically to as far as they could without getting without getting any fight back, So, and when they did, they kind of, okay, we've got enough land here. We made our deals with the Pope, blah, blah, blah. I think we're good. I don't know. I don't know if they expanded any further. Maybe you guys can let me know, because obviously this is the conquest. So they're there. And now we're going to go to how they took over, I guess, you know, other territories or places, in Europe or the world or whatever. So anyways, really cool episode. Definitely really interesting. And yeah, history is cool, guys. This is what it's all about, just learning new stuff, and it's just really neat, just because you know every episode I watch now, every episode, I've said this before, every new series you do, it's like a little bit more, and when you watch TV shows or just anything or like history of because I love like medieval like TV shows or TV TV shows that I know they're not historically accurate, but TV shows that are taken in like those past time periods, because then you kind of know a little bit of the backstory of how things were back then, and so it's really cool to kind of know this stuff for when you watch those TV shows. But anyways, guys, uh, yeah, still trying to think of the town that in France. Oh, like and subscribe, blah blah. At the end of the video, but I'm still trying to think of the town. I'm sorry, guys. This is basically the end of the video, but I'm gonna blabber on here at Netflix. That I'm trying to the TV series I'm watching right now. I'm looking at Netflix on my phone. 1 second, guys. I'm sure 99% of you aren't watching anymore. So, that's why I say, oh, thank you. Like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Okay, guys? But for those of you here who are even interested, hold on a second. All right. Versailles. That's it. Versailles. I'm watching Versailles on Netflix right now, and I just finished the first season, and I just did the Netherlands on the Geography Now uh, the Geography Now series I'm doing. I just did the Netherlands, and I think it was like William the Orange. Might not have been William the Orange, something the Orange, and that was part of the Netherlands. And the Versailles, I guess there's some kind of conflict between Netherlands and France. Anyways, I don't even know why I'm bringing this up, but it's oh yeah, it's because it's kind of cool to see that kind of thing end up being kind of part of the TV show you're watching. And when I did the Netherlands, it made me realize, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I'm just saying it's kind of cool when you watch a TV show, and it kind of brings up some stuff that you learn in the videos I do. But anyways, that's really cool. That's why history is amazing. That's why those TV shows are amazing. It's just really cool. And for those of you who are still watching, thank you. And I'll catch you guys in our future videos. And we'll continue on for our next conquest from the Normans. And yes. And yeah, I think I'm done. I think so. But yeah, like, subscribe, and I'm done now. Peace, guys. Have a great night, great day. I'm out of here.